making, say, food. They are using plastics for packaging. The companies which are importing some product, the creation of the pollutant starts from here. Uske baad, there are users, okay, there are waste generators. We have to collect the waste, we must process the waste, and we must dispose the waste. So up till now, what has happened is, historically, the responsibility has been with the collection, with the processing, and with the disposal. यहाँ पर होता है waste का historical responsibility. So now the governments across the world, ये सिर्फ इंडिया में नहीं, across the world, they say that the responsibility must be shared and probably disproportionately shared by the manufacturers, by the importers, and the initial users who start the chain. All the developments, one common thread comes is EPR. Okay? EPR is a short form of Extended Producer's Responsibility. It has come up in the new rules under plastic pollution. It has come up under the new rules of e-waste, and also new rules under solid waste management. Okay, the new rules have been notified. Okay, some into say solid waste management was notified 2016 May. E-waste, plastic waste 2021-22, plastic waste also this year itself 21-22. Again, all of them talk about this concept of EPR. So I think this could be an important topic, whether prelims ke liye ho ya mains ke liye ho. The question is, what is EPR? How does it address the issue of managing and minimizing pollution from different sources. What is EPR? How does it address the issue of managing and minimizing pollution from different sources? Okay, and remember that EPR as a principle has been added to lot of rules. Okay, so EPR has been notified under various rules and guidelines associated with pollution control measures. And I gave you 3 of them. It has been notified under various rules and guidelines associated with pollution control measures. And what are they? I said plastic pollution rules and guidelines, e-waste rules and guidelines, and solid waste management rules and guidelines. Okay, plastic waste pollution rules and guidelines, e-waste rules and guidelines, and solid waste management rules and guidelines. Okay, all the 3, they have the notification of EPR. Okay, now let me explain the EPR concept first. See, what happens is, if you look at the chain, of pollutants created, okay, their use and their disposal. If you look at the chain of pollutants, ये कहाँ पर create होता है, ये कहाँ पर use होता है और disposal होता है. A very important component of the pollutants are the manufacturers, the importers, and the initial users. Okay, so if there's a company that is into making, say, food, they are using plastics for packaging. The companies which are importing some product, okay, the creation of the pollutant starts from here. Uske baad, there are users, okay, then there are waste, okay, there are waste generators. We have to collect the waste, we must process the waste, and we must dispose the waste. So up till now, what has happened is, historically, the responsibility has been with the collection, with the processing, and with the disposal. यहाँ पर होता है waste का historical responsibility. So now the governments across the world, ये सिर्फ इंडिया में नहीं, across the world, they say that the responsibility must be shared and probably disproportionately shared by the manufacturers, by the importers, and the initial users who start the chain. They are the ones who are responsible for starting off the chain in pollutant uses, in pollutants. They are the ones who introduce the pollutants. So the objective of this EPR is, how do we get the manufacturers? How do we get the importers? In technical terms, we call these as PIBO. PIBO is producer, importer, brand, okay, and brand use and owners. Okay, those who own the brand and who own the companies, the brand owners. Okay, the producers, the importers, and the brand owners. So if I am a branded company that makes maybe chocolates, say I'm Nestle. Nestle is also using plastic wrappers. Nestle also uses some kind of polluting packaging. So if I am a brand owner, for example, even if I'm assembling the goods, say I'm assembling a mobile phone, I'm also using some lead components, mercury components, cadmium components, and so on. So technically, these manufacturers, importers, are called as PIBOs, P-I-B-O. So the whole idea of pollution abatement, the whole idea of pollution reduction and mitigation is to involve okay, the manufacturers and the PIBOs, to involve the manufacturers and the PIBOs, okay, producers, importers, and brand owners, the PIBOs, okay, in sharing the responsibility for pollutants, use reduction. It is a responsibility of sharing the responsibility for the polluting substances reduction, okay, for sharing the responsibility of the pollutant substances collection, processing, and disposal. And where possible, they must also be responsible for recycling. They must also be responsible for recycling of the polluting materials, ताकि it does not enter into the ecosystem in a harmful way. I repeat, what is the idea of EPR? What is the idea of EPR? The idea is the idea of pollution abatement, kam karna, pollution reduction, and the pollution mitigation is to involve the manufacturers, to involve the PIBOs, okay, the producers, importers, and brand owners in sharing the responsibility for polluting substances ka reduction, in pollution substances collection, in polluting substances ka processing, disposal, and where possible even in recycling. Where possible in recycling. So this is in short the summary of what is EPR, extended okay, producers responsibility, extended producers responsibility. Now this is no longer a voluntary act of corporate social responsibility. Okay, so now under rules and guidelines of pollution control, under the rules and guidelines of pollution control, it is mandatory to comply with EPR regulations. It's now mandatory to comply with the EPR regulations. Achha, I hope you know that the Apex Act jo hai is Environmental Protection Act of 1986. Okay, and under this act, we have this body called as Central Pollution Control Board. The Central Pollution Control Board. So all these regulations are managed by this. All the notifications are done by the board. The guidelines are given by the board. The Apex Act is Environmental Protection Act 1986. Uske under mein you have the Central Pollution Control Board. It talks about all types of pollution, air pollution, land pollution, water pollution, and what is to be done. So the EPRs, they have all been issued by the CPCB. Okay, and its enforcement and its monitoring also done by EPCB. Okay, EPCB operates along with the state pollution boards, the state pollution control boards. From here.